You're watching CBS7 News at 9 on the CW and live on the CBS7 YouTube channel with Alexandra Macia and Tom Teeper-Teller.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for CBS7 News on the CW, and thanks for joining us live on the CBS7 YouTube. I'm Alexandra Macia and we start tonight tracking crime. According to Big Spring Police, 2 people were arrested on drug possession and delivery charges. After a large investigation spanning several weeks, the Big Spring Police Department did a home search with a warrant yesterday morning. They found 3 pounds of methamphetamine, over 2 ounces of marijuana, 3 grams of cocaine, and over 2 ounces of THC, which you see on your screen right now. Police also took over $13,000 in cash from the home. 41-year-old Dante Olines and 41-year-old Raina Booker were both arrested and charged with manufacturing and delivering of a controlled substance greater than 400 grams. This investigation is still ongoing, and Big Spring Police expect to make another arrest related to the case. We will, of course, keep you updated as we learn more. And in Midland last night, police were called to a shooting on the 4500 block of Erie Drive, where they found 2 gunshot victims. 36-year-old Dennis O'Laughlin was found dead at the scene, and a second victim was taken to the hospital. Investigators were able to track down the alleged gunman, 18-year-old Julius Pullen. He is now at the Midland County Jail facing charges of murder and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Police have not revealed what led up to the shooting, but the investigation is ongoing. And in Alpine now, an Oklahoma woman was sentenced to 14 years in prison for importing and possessing methamphetamine and fentanyl with intent to distribute. 33-year-old Cherokee Lee Perez was initially arrested at the Presidio port of entry when she was found with 42 packages that contained meth and fentanyl. Officials say that Perez admitted to transporting the drugs for a drug trafficking organization. And we are just weeks away from the November elections, and many people across the Permian Basin have given their opinions on what's on the ballot. Midland ISD's Proposition A has been the center of attention since it was announced to be $1.4 billion. Former Midland Mayor Mike Cannon compared MISD to ECISD proposals and asked why he couldn't the props be separated, and that the school district should focus on academics instead of trying to build all the infrastructure. Cannon served as the mayor of Midland for almost 7 years. He and his family were born and raised in Midland, and they went to schools in MISD, but now he sees the school district a little different. Cannon was at the previous bond committee meetings and says there should have been more options instead of cramping them all into one. However, he believes there's other priorities the school district needs to focus on.
This thing is performance. I mean, if we were to see that our schools were performing high relative to all the other schools across the state, that would certainly be one indicator.
He also referred to the last MISD bond that proposed another high school that ended up failing. Now, with 2 on the ballot, he says that Midlanders may not have trust in MISD. And it's time to take a look at weather. Chief Meteorologist Tom Teeper-Teller is here to tell us what we can expect. Tom?
Well, we are going to be looking at the possibility of some decent weather breaking out here over the next few days. Now, we did see rain last night across the area and early this morning. Again, we just want to reiterate that we saw about 3/4 of an inch of rain across parts of the Permian Basin, but that is some good news as it added to our yearly rainfall total. So now we're at 6.19 inches, still almost 6 inches below where we should be this time of the year, but we're seeing some improvement and we're not on track now to be the driest year on record. So that is at least something from the showers and thunderstorms that have moved off to the east, affecting the Dallas-Fort Worth area, down towards Junction and areas east as we're looking at a quiet evening. Big Spring, hello, you're looking at 66 degrees now, mid-60s across the Permian Basin. So a cool start on the way to your Thursday. Bigger changes in the way of Arctic chill, though, are in our forecast. We'll talk about all that here in just a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Tom. Now we bring you information on new road work in Odessa. The first phase of a 3-year project is expected to start in the next month on Highway 80. TxDOT says the roughly 2.5-mile stretch is a total road rehab, which is expected to take about a year. The road work is happening from 8th Street to the Odessa Country Club. It's the first phase in a larger $24 million project that will be completed in 3 phases by January 2026. A total road rehab means widening lanes, adding curbs and gutters, and more. TxDOT says it'll initially be a new road.
Well, because we have a lot of more traffic coming through, so we need to make sure that the road is a little wider for the truck traffic, for different sizes of vehicles that are coming through there. We're adding a sidewalk so to make it safer for people that are pedestrians coming through that don't have a vehicle to drive or trying to get around.
The section is currently down to 1-lane traffic that only travels towards Midland. CDO says construction will start in the next month or so. And in just about 24 hours, West Texans will have the opportunity to walk the grounds of the Brown Dorsey home to learn the stories of 13 dolls and how they ended up here. Knocking on the walls and doors, opening on their own, won't be the only thing that scares those that enter the oldest home in Midland tomorrow night. For the second year in a row, the Midland Historical Society will be hosting its Creepy Dolls event. Guests can look at 13 creepy dolls in a creepy house.
Last year, a couple of weeks before Halloween, I saw this event in a museum in Chicago where they took some of their old dolls out of their storage that never got put out, put them through the museum in different cases, put little history stories from Chicago with them, and created a Creepy Dolls evening. So we thought, hey, we could do that, but we have a creepy old house we could use.
These types of events help the Brown Dorsey home keep up with maintenance. In the Casa of West Texas and the James A. Buddy Davidson Charitable Foundation will have a full circle event tomorrow at the Busch Convention Center. There will be 2 panels spread out throughout the day tomorrow. Panelists include former youth who experience the child welfare system, their biological parents, as well as former foster parents.
So then hearing about it from people who have actually lived it makes it real and kind of gives them a real tangible idea of what that is and what that looks like for people.
The event is tomorrow from 9:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. In Louisiana Republican Mike Johnson is the new House Speaker. His election Wednesday ended a saga of more than 3 weeks as the GOP conference cycled through 3 other nominees. Johnson earned 220 votes, drawing unanimous Republican support, including Representative August Pfluger, saying he was proud to support him. His statement read in part, quote, "Mike Johnson is a constitutional lawyer and one of the strongest conservatives in Congress who has devoted his life and career to fighting for fundamental freedoms and traditional values, the right to life, Second Amendment, free speech, and religious liberty," end quote. After the tally, Representative Mike Johnson spoke to the chamber.
We want our allies around the world to know that this body of lawmakers is reporting again to our duty stations. Let the enemies of freedom around the world hear us loud and clear. The People's House is back in business.
Johnson's election as House Speaker now allows the chamber to get back to business, of which there is much to deal with. That includes another looming government shutdown by the middle of next month. There's also the reality of 2 wars and how the House might deal with funding support for Ukraine and Israel. An Israeli prime minister says his war cabinet will decide how soon the ground assault on Gaza will begin. Hamas officials say the death toll in Gaza has risen to more than 6,500 people. More than 1,400 Israelis were killed in Hamas terror attack on southern Israel earlier this month. CBS News correspondent Tina Krause has more on the war from Tel Aviv.
CBS News has learned Israel is holding off on its ground invasion into Gaza, possibly to allow more time for negotiations to free more than 200 hostages. Children are among them. 9-month-old Kafir and his 4-year-old brother Ariel.
There's no words that could describe how horrifying this is, seeing innocent kids that did nothing wrong except for being in their homes.
At the White House, President Biden said there is no going back to the status quo.
When this crisis is over, there has to be a vision of what comes next. And in our view, it has to be a 2-state solution.
While Hamas launches rockets at Israel around the clock, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warns Hamas is doomed. On a military base near Tel Aviv, the Israel Defense Forces showed reporters 46 minutes of gut-wrenching raw footage from the horrific attack on October 7th.
We need to call out the depravity and the horror that we saw Hamas commit and what motivated them.
The IDF says its relentless airstrikes on Gaza are not about revenge, but wiping out Hamas. But thousands of civilians have been caught in the crossfire. Are they the enemies? Asked this man, pointing to his wounded son. The UN says a third of hospitals in the Gaza Strip have stopped functioning.
The hospital have nothing to offer to them, so it cannot be described by words. It's a hell.
And fuel is running out to power generators. Israel says Hamas is stealing the crucial commodity from civilians to use in their rockets, releasing aerial images of these tanks it says contain more than 100,000 gallons of fuel. CBS News has not been able to independently verify the pictures. Tina Kraus, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
The Israel Defense Forces says it's using hundreds of hours of raw footage from October 7th to capture images of Hamas members who waged the attack. The IDF is vowing to hunt down every one of them. And now for a look at today's top headlines shown here in real time with real viewers on CBS7.com. See all these stories and more by downloading our app or visiting our website at CBS7.com. And still ahead, almost a quarter of Americans struggle with food insecurity, but about 130 billion pounds of food is thrown away every year. We'll have more details on what to expect and more up next. We all create food waste, but it has a devastating effect on our planet. The Environmental Protection Agency says uneaten food is the most common material filling landfills and incinerators and is enough to feed more than 4 times the people who are food insecure in our country. Meg Oliver introduces us to a group who is tackling the food waste problem, bringing fresh produce from the farm to those in need.
Under the baking sun, dozens of people work their way through fields in New York's Hudson Valley.
Did you already search all the way over here?
They aren't trained farmers.
3 of the really small leaves.
Instead, volunteers bringing an ancient practice back to life.
So what are you gleaning today? We are gleaning several kinds of greens, kale, collards, chard.
Gleaning is the process of collecting leftover food and donating it to people in need. It dates back centuries, but has seen a resurgence in recent years, with nearly 300 organizations spearheading the effort across the U.S.
There's just so much need for nourishing food in the hunger relief system.
Martha Elder leads the way every Monday during harvest season, overseeing volunteers from the nonprofit Second Chance Foods. They pick and wash hundreds of pounds of produce to serve more than 300 families in the area.
On an emotional level, knowing that you're helping feed so many people, what's that like?
Yeah, I sit down to dinner at night with my family, and I appreciate knowing that other people are eating because of the efforts of our organization.
Nationwide, almost a quarter of Americans struggle with food insecurity, yet 1/3 of the food supply is wasted each year. That's more than 130 billion pounds thrown away in grocery stores, restaurants, homes, and even farms.
Everything we send out of our kitchen, we would want to feel proud serving in our own homes to our own guests.
Kitchen volunteers combine collected crops with grocery donations to create more than 1,300 healthy dishes.
People with children, veterans, senior citizens, just so many of our neighbors really struggle with especially nourishing food.
One of those neighbors is 96-year-old Bob Buttiglione. The World War II veteran lives on a fixed income and relies on Second Chance Foods meals distributed from his church.
What does that weekly meal mean to you?
Oh, it means everything. This way I don't have to go out every day to buy my food.
I'm Meg Oliver in New York's Hudson Valley.
Well, we have seen a lot of rain across the area. Not much more in the forecast, but that's going to be replaced with Arctic chill. We're going to talk about all that coming up next.
Now, from the CBS7 First Alert Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, a big trough of low pressure moved through today, and that brought some rain early on, but things are starting to clear out. Taking a look at the weather makers right now, we're seeing that we do have a lot of dry air starting to spill into the area. That's going to make for a couple of nice days. We'll see another weak front roll in on this northwesterly flow that rolls across, but it's not going to do a lot other than a wind shift, and that will happen on Friday. Then our attention turns back off to the northwest. Looking at this big storm system back in here across the Pacific Northwest, that is going to sweep to our north, but in its wake, though, it's really going to carve out the jet stream, drop a big front through, and our first taste of Arctic air this fall season is on the way. So again, looking at the Texas view of the satellite and radar, most of the showers, thunder showers have been lingering across portions of north central Texas back towards the hill country. There's been rainfall estimates of 2 to 3 inches plus anywhere from around the Kerrville area north towards Fredericksburg, then on up towards Weatherford. and into portions of Tarrant County in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, seeing some heavier rain, and it's cooling off. Temperatures of 68 there, looking nice in a drier air, mid-60s across the Permian Basin, but that front still has yet to make it all the way off to the east and southeast. Seeing that most of the showers, thunder showers, going to stay off to our east tonight. Some low clouds to wake up to across the lower Trans-Pecos into parts of the southeast Permian Basin, but we'll break out in all that sunshine coming up for tomorrow afternoon. Rest of tonight, things look quiet out there and a little on the chilly side. First off, as we'll drop down into the mid to lower 50s out there. Rebound nicely tomorrow afternoon into the 80s, but here come the big changes. Your CBS7 First Alert exclusive 10-day forecast showing things look quiet this week. There's that weak front moving in on Friday. Nothing more than a wind shift, and temperatures start off nice for the weekend, but then we'll notice a sharp change to temperatures as an Arctic cold front arrives. It looks like early on Sunday. May see an isolated shower, thunder shower with it, then some lighter rain moving in behind the front. But look at the Arctic chill rolling in all the way down into the mid-30s. Early next week, mid-40s for afternoon highs, so it's going to be chilly for Halloween. And some areas across the Guadalupe Mountains, northern Lee County, and the northern Permian Basin could be touching freezing for the first time again this fall season by Monday morning.
Coming up on CBS 7 News at 9 the CW, Apple TV is hiking their prices, and could an onion recall affect you? We'll have that and more up next. Ahead of Halloween, Airbnb is using artificial intelligence to crack down on disruptive and unauthorized parties this weekend. The company says its state-of-the-art system works to prevent certain potentially high-risk 1- and 2-night whole home bookings. The AI-driven anti-party system looks at hundreds of signals that could indicate a higher risk for a disruptive or unauthorized party. That includes trip length, the distance to the home, and whether the booking is last minute. The system is in effect across the U.S. and Canada. Last Halloween, the company's anti-party system deterred thousands of people across the United States from booking a whole home listing on the platform. And watching Ted Lasso in the morning show is about to set you back more green. Apple is raising the price of its Apple TV Plus streaming service. The hike brings it to $10 a month or $99 for the year. That's up $3 from $7 a month or $30 more if you pay for an entire year. The last time prices went up was a year ago, and before that, prices were steady for 3 years. Apple does not disclose how many people subscribe to Apple TV. This is the latest streaming service to raise prices this year, joining Netflix, Disney+, Hulu, and Max. And nearly 7,000 workers from Detroit walked off the job yesterday at the nation's largest Stellantis plant. This is as the United Auto Workers Union continues to expand its strike against the big three automakers. The plant makes one of the brand's biggest sellers, the Ram 1500 truck. Since the strike began last month, more than 40,000 auto workers from Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis plants across the country have walked off the job. And still ahead, the Smithsonian is seeking stories of inspirational women to include in their new digital exhibit. Do you know a woman who has inspired you to think differently? Well, the Smithsonian wants to hear about it. The team there is looking for exhibits for its Smithsonian American Women's History Museum. Anyone can submit a woman's story to be included. The exhibit is set to open in March in digital form only, but a physical location is also being planned. That's going to take at least 10 years, though. Tom, do you have anyone you would submit for this?
Oh, probably numerous. I mean, there's a lot of incredible stories there based upon women in this country and the history. So that is going to be something else once they get it all set up and done.
Very nice to go and take a trip to see.
Yes. Well, we are going to be looking at some cooler weather in our forecast. It's going to be quiet the rest of the week. It's this weekend, though, when that Arctic cold front arrives on Sunday, that's really going to bring winter chill to the forecast and possibly the first freeze of the season to parts of West Texas, like southeast New Mexico, the northern Permian Basin, and the Guadalupe Mountains. So definitely something to watch. Definitely a big change on the way, and it's going to make for a cold Halloween.
Well, thanks for watching CBS 7 First Alert News. I'm None, the CW.